Hi, hope you're keeping all right today. It is cold, wet and rainy where I am down in Cornwall today, so this is probably going to be quite a quick video. I've been reflecting over the last few days on Romans chapter 12 verse 2, where Paul says, do not be conformed to the present age, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Now, I think this is one of the verses in Scripture that is probably most misunderstood or most misinterpreted. And part of the reason for that is because our English translations of the Bible very often say, do not be conformed to the world. Well, actually, it doesn't say that. It says, do not be conformed to the present age. But by translating the word world, it encourages many Christians, I think, to critique modern culture, the world in which we live, and to sort of come up with the idea that the world is bad and needs to be avoided at all costs, and that we as Christians need to separate ourselves away from the world completely and live a different way of being within the church context. Now, of course, I do believe that we do need to be separate from the world, that we are called to a fresh identity, a new family, a new way of living. But we can't get that from this verse because Paul doesn't actually say world. What he says is, do not be conformed to the present age. Now, this verse, I think, instead of calling us to critique and criticize the world in which we live, is actually an encouragement to us to reflect on our own spirituality and our own spiritual journey. Paul says, do not be conformed to the present age, but be transformed by the renewal of your minds. So what does Paul mean by the present age? Well, I think that what he's really getting at is the idea that wherever you're at in your spirituality right now, wherever you're at with God, do not be conformed to it, which is to say, don't be comfortable with your own spirituality. Don't be comfortable where you're at with God. Recognize that you are on a spiritual journey, that you are, that we should be constantly on the move, constantly seeking and striving to grow closer to God and to move deeper into an experience with him. So do not be conformed to the present age. Wherever you're at, whatever the present age is for you, as it were, as a Christian, don't be conformed, but be restless as a Christian and constantly desiring to go deeper into God. Now, how do we do that? Well, Paul says that we do it by the transforming or the renewing of our minds. What does the mind mean? Well, there's two ways at coming at this word. And that's because when Paul wrote this letter to the church at Rome, it was a congregation, if you like. It was a church that had two very separate worldviews held within it. There were a lot of Jewish Christians in the church at Rome, and there were a lot of Gentile Christians as well. And Jews and Gentiles both interpreted this word mind differently. So for the Jewish mindset, the notion of the mind is the inner spirit, if you like, the inner spirit of a human being. So what Paul is saying, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. For the Jewish Christians would have heard that as, constantly deepen your walk with God through ethics and morality and the way we behave and through our prayer life and our worship and so on and so forth. But for the Gentile Christians, the word mind had a very particular place in Greek philosophy. The word nous, spelled N-O-U-S, the word mind in Greek philosophy. And it's a very complex word. We can't unpack it all in this video. But fundamentally, the word mind in Greek philosophy has to do with the mental capacity that we have to perceive spiritual reality. The mental capacity we have to perceive spiritual reality. And so Paul is saying that be transformed by the renewing of your mind. He's fundamentally encouraging us as Christians to journey deeper into the perception of all that is real spiritually. So, for example, as we grow as Christians, we perceive the reality of our own fallenness, our own sinfulness more and more. We therefore perceive the reality of God's grace for us more and more. We perceive the reality of the Lordship of Christ over us more and more. And then ultimately we perceive the spiritual reality of our calling to be children of God. So in this passage, whether you read it as a Jew or as a Gentile, you would have been encouraged by Paul not to criticize the world in which we live, not to critique the world, but to reflect on your own spiritual journey and to resolve not to be conformed to where you are currently at with God, but to desire to move on with God and to deepen your relationship with him through a deeper understanding of what is true and what is real. Do not be conformed to the present age, whatever the present age is for you spiritually, but be transformed by the renewal of your minds. Now, as I record this, we are standing at the doorway of a new year, and I wonder whether for you this might be a year where you commit to the transformation and the renewal of your mind, the pursuit of spiritual realities that will draw you into a deeper awareness of your need for God, a deeper awareness of God's grace for you, his lordship over your life, and ultimately what it means for you to live as a child of God. That's what Paul calls us into, non-conformity. To be a hi, you okay? It's always a bit embarrassing when you're filming and someone turns up, but anyway, you'll be a star on YouTube. It's what he's calling us into, and this renewal of our minds. So I would urge you to take this opportunity to reflect on Romans chapter 12 verse 2. Do not be conformed to the present age, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds. May this be the year for you and for me where that becomes a deeper reality for us. Well, thank you for being with me today. I'm sorry it's so dark and it's so wet and cold and rainy and windy, and I'm sorry for that little interruption at the end. I am in a sort of housing block of apartments right down next to the harbour, so there are people walking around. Anyway, do not be conformed. Pursue non-conformity for God, and allow him to take you deeper and deeper into the journey of self-discovery and God discovery, both this day and throughout the rest of this new year to come. Thanks for being with me today, and I shall hopefully be back again with you tomorrow, and I hope the weather will be a bit better by then. Take care. Bye bye.